Cyber Innovations in the Private Sector highlights case studies and the latest industry trends from private vendors. Explore innovative solutions, success stories, and exclusive insights from industry leaders. Stay ahead with the cutting-edge developments driving the industry forward.
Hi, today on CyberSec TV, we go beyond the bridge, into the heart of what makes security tick. Today, the lens isn't just on firewalls and code. It's on you, the human, at the center of it all. Joining now is Angela Sasse, Professor of Human-Centered Security at Rural University Bochum and UCL. She has published research on everything from the economics of security to how trust is built or broken in digital environments. Professor Sasse, thank you for being with us tonight today.
Thank you for having me, Nicholas.
Your research challenges the idea that security is purely technical. Why is human behavior so often the weakest link? And why do we keep designing systems that ignore this reality?
I don't quite understand why we keep making the same mistake over and over again. It's really most systems that operate today have both technical and human components. If the tasks that the humans have to do to deliver the security in those systems are impossible for them to do, we shouldn't be surprised that they don't comply with the policies. Then each time any of your employees isn't following a policy, that's a vulnerability in your system. You know, your policies then only work on paper, but not in reality.
We train users to be numb to alerts and overload with tasks. How can we reimagine security systems so that people don't feel punished for just being online?
I guess we should start from the point that if you design a system where security is so cumbersome and creates so much, you end up in a commercial system eating all the profits, or if you're trying to attract people to use the system, if the security is too cumbersome, they'll just stop using it. So security can't really be a goal in itself. It can only be something that has to work within a particular system. And really every time you put a security measure in place, you should do basic usability checks. You should identify the people who have to follow those rules. Then you should look at what they have to do in their day-to-day activities, and then ask yourself whether it's still possible for them to do the security and still get their tasks done. If you go back to old-fashioned password security, if your password policies mean and the way the number of passwords that people have and the way they have to use them mean that each of your employees is spending half an hour a day just logging into systems.
Angela, you talk about economics of security. In corporate environments where security is seen as a cost center, how can we reframe the conversation to prioritize usability and trust as business assets?
I think everybody should, seeing security as a cost center, in my mind, is a huge mistake, right? Security is an investment that you make into the long-term survival of your system. And it's something you have to do to keep your system protected and make sure it continues. However, I think it's very important to understand what the security is costing you, and that includes the time that your employees are spending on it. So we should invest in security solutions, but we should make sure that they take up as little of employees' time as possible. I think basically evaluating the security mechanisms that are in place, reviewing them regularly and making sure they are actually worth what you're paying for them and the time that your employees are putting into them. That's where a lot of companies currently don't really spend enough of their effort.
There's a lot of buzz right now about zero trust frameworks. Do you think these approaches help build real trust, or are they just another layer of digital suspicion?
I can see that there are certain scenarios where zero trust is the right approach. It's in very high risk and high risk environments, and where you really you really have to secure something. If the zero trust can be incorporated smoothly, and I think we do have technology. We have modern security technology, identity and access management technologies. That means we don't have to trust. We can do assurance to make sure this is really the person who is authorized to use a particular service, who is entitled to view particular data and so on. Then yes.
So the next question would be the post-pandemic world, accelerated remote work, hybrid offices, and online everything actually. In terms of user-centered privacy and behavior, what are the long-term implications for how secure digital environments in this era are?
Introduction of working from home and regular work in home offices has been a real additional challenge. And there's really both an element of really providing technically good solution and assistance, but also to create a mindset that you have a different context in which you're operating, and that there are rules. You need to basically create a new set of rules for when working from home. And that basically is both about safeguarding access to your company's devices and data and so on, that you have the right mindset to also apply certain security rules at home, but also at the same time that companies should really, for instance, not expect their employees to become their own systems administrators at home. You may also need an additional set of rules about verifying identities and business partners, but it's really, I think it's a question of explicitly acknowledging that is a new environment and that a different context has additional risks, and that means changing certain behaviors. And certain behaviors you could do when you're in a shared environment in the company, that you can't do that if you are calling somebody or having a video call with somebody from your home office.
Do they actually work, or are just checking compliance boxes? What makes security education effective in the real world?
I'm afraid at the moment, most training programs in most companies are just compliance. It's checking the box, because most of the regulations say you have to make sure all your employees have been trained. But they, of course, don't say how you have to measure whether that training has been successful. What you're asking people to do is to behave in a secure way. You're asking them to follow certain rules. You may also ask them to be watchful and recognize certain risks. Now, learning that, to learn that by just reading about threats and reading about policies once a year, and then answering some questions about it, that's not changing the behavior day to day. When you come back to work the next day, you're going to have forgotten 90% of what you read in the training. And changing behavior is something you need to repeat the new behavior quite often for it to stick. And if that behavior is possible, then it becomes a routine. And the great thing is, once it's the new behavior, the secure behavior is routine, it's not a burden on employees anymore. We need to really be realistic. Be realistic is that you can't learn about 10 or 20 different security rules and behaviors and change that behavior all in one go. And that really means is we should have clear priorities, teach the most important behaviors first, give them a chance to bed in, then you tackle the next one, and the next one. So I'm afraid this whole idea of, having the training once a year or having only a particular month where you talk about secure behaviors isn't working. That is not going to work.
And Angela, you advise government institutions and private industry. What's the most surprising blind spot you encounter in leadership when it comes to digital trust and security culture?
With the leadership, the key blind spot we keep coming across is that they think it's something that is technical and something they can delegate to experts, and that the leadership thinks it's not something they have to get involved in. But to really make sure that security works in the context of your business processes, identifying the priorities, identifying what resilience looks like for your most important processes is something where that leadership has to make. There are often difficult decisions to be made, about priorities, about investments, and that's not something the security experts can make. And secondly, also, since with modern organizations where everybody is interacting with the digital systems we're trying to secure, everybody needs to be involved. And that means the leadership has to really also identify other parts of and other roles and functions in the company and give them explicit tasks and explicit goals for security. The poor chief information security officer they can't achieve anything alone and by themselves. Now, if the leadership doesn't tell the human resources department to talk to the CISO and work with him or her in incorporating secure behavior into the human resources goals and activities, it's not going to magically happen by itself. It has surprised me very often that they don't realize that it's the leadership's job to find the capability and the capacity in the organization to do the digital transformation processes and to do the security tasks that are associated with that to meet these new challenges.
Is there something that we may be skipping and you would like to add into this conversation?
I think a lot of employees in many environments have been given really impossible security tasks, and then they're being blamed for failing. This weakest link, I think, is very unfortunate because there is an implication that they are deficient and it's their fault, and that it means it can be fixed with training. But what we really need is we need to design our systems to incorporate security, and we need to design them for secure behavior. That's possible. That's really possible for all our employees to do. And what we really want is enthusiastic participation. So we want security to be seen as something that is positive, that's worth having, and that everybody wants to agrees. We want to secure our organizations, we want to secure our business future. And I think that's what we need, because if we keep fighting each other within the organization, and keep blaming each other for not delivering security, that really just helps the attackers out there, right? We are all on the inside. We are all the good guys. We need to work together. We need a positive and working cooperation to secure our organizations and secure our assets. Otherwise, we're just helping the attackers.
Professor Angela Sasse, thank you for your time and for reminding us that the front line in cybersecurity starts with people.